Welcome to the Foolish Wanderers podcast.
Why must I be surrounded by fools?
Welcome, Wanderer.
Hey, Wanderers! Welcome back to the Foolish Wanderers podcast, the podcast about anything and everything. I'm Katrina, always joined by my lovely co-host,
Kendra.
And today we're talking about the lovely bearded man with the pointy top hat.
Santa.
Close. Well, he doesn't really have a... I guess it is pointed. It's just not as pointed as a gnome.
Yeah, it's saggy pointed.
Did you know that actually Santa Claus is kind of interlinked with gnome culture?
Are they cousins?
No, I think it's just because they look similar.
With the snowy white beard and
the
red hat.
Yeah. Yep. And there's actually a tie to it to Christmas. So we'll kind of get into that. So yeah. So what do you think when I say gnome? What's your first impression when I say gnome?
Probably the lawn ornaments, right? The little statues that old women have.
Yeah, in their gardens and stuff.
Yeah, in their gardens.
Mm-hmm. To be honest, those kind of freaked me out a little bit.
What?
And the gnomes? I don't like gnomes that much.
Really?
I don't know. I guess some of them are okay, but there's some that I think are kind of creepy. I don't know.
Like what kind? I've seen the naughty ones where they mooning you.
I mean, I guess kind of like those ones, but there's some that just their faces look. There's some that look very cheery, and some are just kind of me, I'm going to eat you. I don't know. They're just the eyes are weird. I don't know. There's just something about them that look odd. But yeah, so that's typically your average response. The pointed red hat, white beard, little short man. What if I told you that they might be real? Actually real.
Like a real person?
Yeah, a real race of people. Yeah, a real type of person.
I would probably say you're a liar.
Well,
you're a liar, not a truther.
So actually there's a lot of myths and legends from especially around Europe, and we'll get into quite a few. We'll get into the different kinds of gnomes and things in different cultures and how they thought that they looked or how they behaved and stuff. So ancient gnomes were said to live underground and were often associated with mines and wealth. So kind of like the stereotypical Snow White, Seven Dwarves, they're mining for jewels and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. And in the Lord of the Rings, the gnomes are miners. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. So they were thought to be the guardians of gold and other treasures, and that they had great wisdom, not only mining the earth, but also managing money in general. So advice from a gnome could make any man rich. So that was kind of the trope kind of thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So gnomes are similar creatures were found in folklore from many different countries where they went by different names, such as the Nisse in Denmark and Norway, Nissen in Sweden, Duende in Spain, Tonti in Finland, and the Hob in England.
Hob?
Hob. Yeah, H-O-B. Yeah, there's actually quite a few more. So basically every country has their own little
version of gnomes.
Yeah, their own. Yeah, basically, because I heard that leprechauns were Ireland's.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. I was so is a leprechaun a gnome, a type of gnome?
I think it's a type of gnome. I don't know if it's the same as whatever other person is.
It just kind of
every other culture's is.
I just started going on that track because you said that an advice from gnome could make any person rich. So that's kind of like a leprechaun with their gold.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I heard that's what I read. It was Ireland's version was the leprechaun. So there's ones from Germany that honestly I don't know if I could pronounce.
Erdmanlines?
Heinz McKennis. I apologize. Switzerland and Luxembourg use the same name, Klein McKinnon, which means little men. So that's another version of gnome.
So where does gnome come from? The word gnome?
We'll kind of get into that a little bit.
All right.
So we're going to jump to Finland and Norway, Sweden kind of area. Okay?
Okay. The Scandinavian peninsula.
Yeah. So in Lapland, or Finland's northernmost land, people from the Sami tribe, I believe I'm saying that right?
Yep, Sami.
Sami, okay, had their own myths and legends of a gnome-like creature. The Sami people are indigenous Finno-Ugric speaking people inhabiting Sampi, which today encompasses the large northern parts of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and the Kola Peninsula within the Murmansk, thank you, Oblast of Russia. So Finnish-speaking Samis call the gnomes machin, a word which is derived from the word ma, meaning earth, which is fitting since they were the creatures that lived underground. And then the stories of the gnomes were rather similar all over the Scandinavian countries. So they all kind of had the same lore. So in Norwegian, gnome is Goffitar, I believe, which means good spirit. And in Old Norse, gnome was called Ulda, which meant invisible spirit, which is possibly had connections to worship the ancestors who were often believed to be invisible spirits that guarded the living and lived underground. So they kind of tied the gnomes to invisible spirits.
So the gnomes aren't invisible, are they?
Depends who you ask. So we'll kind of get more into that later too. But yeah, so like sometimes they said like they can turn invisible, but otherwise sometimes people just say like they're just normal. You see them all the time. So it kind of depends like which culture you're looking into. So in Sami folklore, Guftar or gnomes were believed to look like small humans. They were the same size as the 3 to 4 year old children. So everything in the land of the gnomes was upside down. If it was midnight on the human world, it was bright day there. If it was summer in the human world, then the land of the gnomes was in the winter season. So life in the gnome people was very similar to humans. They were farmers, fishermen, reindeer herders, and like the Sami, they lived in very close relationship with nature. They often had their own setas, or sacred altars, where Samis performed shamanic rituals to their gods, goddesses, spirits, and ancestors. It's basically just another race of just tiny humans, basically.
So were there tiny reindeer too? They said they were reindeer herders.
I think it was normal-sized reindeer.
Okay, darn
I
it.
didn't read anything about tiny reindeer. That'd be pretty cool, but I didn't see anything about that. So the Giftar were in friendly terms with humans as long as the humans respected them.
Okay.
If not, they very quickly became enemies. If a person suddenly became very rich, rumors would spread very quickly, like spreading around the town, that they had met a friendly gnome or that they had stumbled across its treasure. These myths are common in Norway and Sweden, where Sami myths have gotten lots of elements from Scandinavian mythology. And sometimes stories about gnomes are mixed in with words about dwarves. So it kind of sometimes intermixes.
Are dwarves and gnomes different?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Don't we look up the definition of a dwarf?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So going to Merriam-Webster on Google, a dwarf is a person unusually small stature, usually that does not exceed 4 feet and 10 inches, and is typically less than 4'5". So 4 feet 5 inches.
All right. So the gnomes are a little bit shorter.
They're a little bit shorter. Let me see if I can find a different definition too. So in Germanic folklore, a dwarf is an entity that dwells in mountains and the earth. So kind of the same as gnomes. The entity is variously associated with wisdom, smithing, mining, and crafting. And they continue to be depicted in modern popular culture and variety of media. So I guess kind of the same.
They're like the
I
same
don't know.
thing. Like maybe it's just like
Basically, yeah.
leprechaun, gnome, dwarf, but depending on who you ask.
Yeah, that's probably like what it is, yeah. 'Cause it sounds very similar.
Okay.
All right. So if a person built their house on a place where there was a gnome family living underneath it, it would upset them a great deal. So then they would cast a spell which might set the unsuspecting human's house on fire.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
so mean.
Yep.
Gnomes are kind of assholes.
If you make them mad, yeah.
How are you supposed to know that their house is there? It's upside down.
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know.
Jeez, they're just arsonists.
Yep,
Awful.
little arsonists. So, and it says that sometimes the gnome would pick at and torment the humans until they would eventually give up and build their house elsewhere. So they basically chase them away. I also heard too that like they sometimes would kill like livestock and stuff. So like basically forcing them to move.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, so don't mess with the gnome.
Gnomes?
Yeah. So Samis also believed that the gnomes had their own reindeer. The reindeer were shining white albino reindeer, or pitch black, so like solid colors. It was believed that the gnomes' reindeer had magical powers and that they brought good luck to their owners. If a gnome's reindeer would join the herd of reindeer that was owned by a human, that person would have to perform a ritual to capture the reindeer and claim it as their own. So otherwise, like, I'm sure the gnome would get mad and then
burn their
do
house
something.
down?
Yeah. Yep.
So the human has to do like a ritual to keep the gnome reindeer.
Yep.
Okay,
So
so
here's
what do they have to do?
here's what you have to do.
Okay.
So they would need to throw an iron object over the gnome's reindeer. This object could have been anything from a horseshoe to a coin. People believed that iron had held a great power because it was strongly connected to the earth. so strong that one could even capture magical creatures with it.
Okay.
So, yeah, so basically just find something iron and toss it over it, and then it was yours. Yep. So, fun fact, cold iron, the term, is historically believed to repel, contain, or harm ghosts, fairies, witches, and other malevolent supernatural creatures. This belief continued into later superstitions in a number of forms. One, nailing an iron horseshoe to a door was said to repel evil spirits or later to bring good luck.
I've only heard good luck.
Oh, really?
I've never heard to do repel evil spirits with a horseshoe.
I think I've heard both, but like recently heard the repelling evil.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. 2, surrounding a cemetery with an iron fence was thought to contain souls of the dead, which I guess makes sense.
You see
right?
that in like old towns, really old towns, they'll have like an iron picket fence surrounding the cemetery,
Yep.
and
So that's why.
that's why. Okay, because
At least one of the reasons. Yeah.
I went to it was one of the it was a really really old cemetery in Boston. It was like in the middle of the city of Boston, and they have a bunch of like founding fathers and American Revolution historical figures buried in there.
Yeah.
And it was super old, but they had a fence, and it was like wrought iron, and it was covered in moss. And
oh, cool.
I'm sure that's probably the reasoning of why they did it, right?
That's
back
probably
then.
part of it, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm sure like part of it too might have been like the material that they had to make it, but yeah, I think mostly to keep
Just that, and
the
then
dead
now
in.
it's just kind of interesting because now I didn't know that it was to repel evil spirits. I just
I
like, oh,
know,
it's a
yeah.
fence.
Yeah, exactly. Like
It keeps
unless
deer
you,
out.
although some of them are pretty short, so like,
Mhm.
but alright, so the next one is burying an iron knife under the entrance to one's home was alleged to keep witches from entering.
I'm gonna do that later.
In your apartment, just go below the floorboards and just
Mhm.
bury a knife.
Below the
Yep.
carpet.
There you go. And then the last one is placing a knife under a bed to cut pain, to like get rid of
What do you mean
pain.
cut pain?
I think just like getting rid of it as like a way to like get rid of your pain, I guess. Maybe if it was like, I wonder if it like means kind of like if an evil spirit was like causing you to have pain, so like
Mhm.
this iron knife under you would like get rid of that evil spirit. Just be like, get out of here.
Get
And
out of
then
here, spirit.
yeah, so then you don't feel the pain anymore.
Okay.
That might be what it is.
I would be too I don't know about you, but I would be too afraid that I would accidentally stab myself if I slept with a knife under my pillow.
Under your bed though? Like on the
Oh, it's
floor.
under your bed.
Yeah, under
Okay.
your bed, not the pillow. Yeah, no, the
Oh.
pillow would be dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, so under your bed, I think it's fine. I have heard too, like having something ironed by like your baby's bed, and we'll kind of get more into like
Oh,
why.
not the babies.
Yeah,
Not the
so like
creepy kids.
creepy kids. It's not necessarily like creepy kids. Well, like maybe. Okay, I'll get back to that one in a few
We'll get
slides here.
into it. Okay, we're
Yeah, we'll
still
get into
talking
that one.
about the Sami.
Yep. Well, actually, now we're gonna go into the Nisse or Nisse. So the Nisse, there's a few different types of gnomes, and I'll read through like a list of some other ones. But this next one that I have is the Nisse.
Is this the Norwegian one?
Scandinavian. Yeah.
So okay, Swedish, Norwegian. We don't really know.
Yeah.
We know it's not Finnish because like the joke is like Finnish is so completely different than Swedish, Norwegian, or even Danish.
Oh, the language.
Yeah, it's so different.
That's interesting. They're so close to each other, and then
It's like a
different.
Finno-Ugric sort of. It's for more like Estonia. They came up in
Oh, okay.
through Finland.
Okay, cool.
Different language.
It was cool.
Mm-hmm.
So the Nisse, also known as the Tomti,
Oh, it's the Tomty.
Have you heard of that?
So, everyone knows all the listeners know what the Tomty are because they're really popular in like the white girl circuit on Pinterest and decorating.
I had no idea what this
so
is.
they are they're like those little cute people, like are you decorating them for Christmas? They use them as Christmas decorations with the
like
little wood button, and they have the little hat, and they're just like a little stuffed animal, and they sit on shelves. It's like more like a
so it's just like
with
it's mostly like a hat with a beard and a nose.
You've seen them.
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I didn't know what they're called.
Yeah, so they're Tomty. So a lot of some of my friends that are were Swedish or Norwegian descent, they'd have those before they were popular because they were, from
the area.
Yeah.
Like they're
Mhm.
okay. That's cool. I
Mhm.
had no idea what they were called. That's cool. The tomte, or the Nisse, is a mythological creature from Scandinavian folklore, typically associated with winter solstice and the Christmas season. So that's why you use them in decoration and stuff.
Mhm.
So according to tradition, they secretly live in a house and act as a guardian. If treated well, they protect children and animals from evil and misfortune. They also help with chores and farm work. Despite their size, the Nisse possess an immense strength.
Mhm. But if you don't treat them well, they're
Bad
gonna
things
burn your
happen.
house down.
Yep. So the Nisse is connected to farm animals in general, but the most treasured animal was the horse. Believed that it had one that one could see which horse was the Nisse's favorite, as would be especially healthy and well taken care of. So like if you had like 5 horses and one was doing exceptionally well, that would be the Nisse's favorite.
That was their sea biscuit. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So sometimes the Nisse would braid its hair and tail. If
That's
you were
so weird.
to braid it, why?
I don't know, it's just kind of creepy that they're obsessed with one horse out of, the
Eh,
5 that you have, and
I
then you might
guess.
come into the barn one day, and you just see these things, like, braiding the horse's hair.
I mean, I guess it freaked me out more if, like, I didn't know how it would be braided, just, like, all of a sudden you walk in and it's just braided. I guess that would freak me out, yeah, because obviously a horse can't do
Uh-huh.
that. But, however, if you were to undo these braids, you were risking angering the Nisse. If anyone spilled something on the floor in the house, it was wise to shout out a warning to the Nisse below. So, like, warn them because, like, they live under the house or whatever, so, like, you don't spill on them.
See, I don't think these pumpkin spice people, these ladies, are
We
doing
don't
that.
know.
They're not
No.
respecting them.
I mean, if you don't know, like, the mythology behind it, yeah.
Don't
Yep.
be buying them. They'll burn your house down.
Oh,
Okay,
oh,
what
that'd be
if
horrible.
wouldn't that be awful, but also kind of not funny, but odd that all of a sudden during, like, Christmas, they're like, arsonists. Arson is up.
That would be creepy.
That would be creepy.
Yeah. No, like, if that starts happening this
Mhm.
year, I'm gonna be freaked out and be like, "I know why."
They're
Now you
disrespecting the
Yep.
they undid the horse's braids.
Oh. So, I've also heard too, like, with fairies and stuff, like, apparently I
Mhm.
had to do more research on fairies, but, like, if you find, like, little bones or flowers or, like, rocks and stuff randomly in front of your door or something, don't pick them up unless you know what you're messing with, because otherwise it could be, like, offerings from a fairy, and, like, if you don't reciprocate it or, like, something along those lines, like, they'll do evil things to you.
Mhm.
So, you have to do more research on that, but fairies also kinda creep me out now.
Fairies fairies creep me out way more than gnomes.
Do they? Yeah.
Yeah, they creep me out.
I used to like him as a kid, but, like, ever since, like, I've heard, so many stories about, like, the creepy stuff that can go on,
Mhm.
I don't like them.
I don't like them either.
So, one is also required to please the spirit with gifts. Perhaps the most important gift was a bowl of porridge on Christmas Eve. If the Nisse was not given this payment, he would leave the farm or house or engage in mischief, such as tying the cows' tails together in the barn, turning objects upside down, and breaking things.
See, they're just being assholes.
I didn't get my porridge.
I didn't get my porridge.
Now you have no buckets. Now your tails are tied together. Yep.
Like, what kind of asshole just ties cows' tails together? That's such a jerk move, because you didn't get
Yeah.
porridge?
Yeah. Yeah. This is actually kind of like the Nisse is kind of tied a little bit more to Santa Claus because they are typically seen with like the red hat and then
Mhm.
the long white beard and then especially the tie into Christmas.
Do
That's
they
kind of
make
why they're.
toys?
I don't think so. I think
So
they
they're
just help
not
you around the
elves.
farm. No, they're not elves. I think
So this
elves are
is
a
a
completely
different
different thing.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question. So, a Chamti or Nisse was often imagined as a small, elderly man, often with a full beard, dressed in the everyday clothing of a farmer. It is generally no taller than 3 feet and has a long white beard, wearing colorful clothes.
Mhm.
However, there are also folk tales where the Nisse is believed to be a shapeshifter, able to take shape far larger than an adult man.
That is
And
terrifying.
yeah, and other tales where the Nisse is believed to have a single cyclopean eye. So
Oh
like a
my gosh.
cyclops.
So
What?
I think it'd just be funny if somebody, like, on Etsy made, like,
Cyclops.
like, an accurate Tomty, like, a historical, like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Mythologically correct.
Yeah,
Tomty,
mythologically
yeah.
correct Tomty, and they
Mhm.
would looked all cute, and then you couldn't see the eye, but if you were just, like,
Uh-huh.
playing with it one day and you lifted up its hair, it would just have the hugest one eye.
That's creepy.
I think it'd be so funny.
I would buy that.
It'd be a
That's kinda
great
great.
idea, and then it could come with like an instruction manual, like you better feed me porridge
Yeah,
on
if you
Christmas Eve.
Yeah, honestly, we can make that. That'd be pretty great.
That'd be funny.
That'd be great. Like little ornaments of it. That'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so there's also a lot of different types of gnomes. So I'll read off a few different types. So the forest gnome is the most common. The forest gnome rarely comes into contact with man. So like they
Just
stay in the forest
because
and like I
they
think just because like they don't like people and
I
like they
think
don't
it,
trust them.
so even if like a lumberjack is going through the forest,
I think they'll like run away. I
they'll
think
run
it's
away.
kind of
Can
yeah.
they go be? Can they be invisible? Because I
I don't
feel
know if those ones can.
okay.
But I have seen like I've heard and like read that these like the forest gnomes are the ones that will help like if creatures are stuck in like in traps and stuff, or if they get like stuck in
Oh,
thorns, like they'll take care of the creatures of the forest.
that's
So like
nice.
yeah, so they're cute little guys. And, like they'll come up and
I'm so conflicted. I like these things because they're cute and they braid
uh-huh.
horse's hair and
I thought you said that was creepy.
it's creepy, but now it's kind of cute because they really like animals. They're kind of
Yeah,
just like obsessed PETA people.
kind of, I guess, yeah. They'll
Because
live underground. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, they love the animals, but they'll burn your house down. So
That's a lot. Okay. So moving on to the garden gnomes. So garden gnomes live in old gardens and enjoy telling melancholy tales. So
what do you mean melancholy tales?
we'll kind of get into this one a little bit more later too,
Okay, it's
because
like
it gets
melancholy
interesting.
tales?
Yeah.
That's most stand-up comedians.
Oh, no, true. We'll kind of talk more about like where this kind of came from.
Okay.
The garden gnomes. Dune gnomes, like the
Wait,
movie.
Dune Gnome, like the movie?
Dune, yeah.
Spice. The
Yep.
spice.
I don't know that reference yet.
What? You have to see the movie.
I know, I have to see it. So Dune gnomes are slightly larger than their woodland brethren
Okay.
and have chosen remarkably drab clothing.
So like Dune, like the movie Dune as well.
Yeah, I don't know much about them,
Okay.
but yep. And there's house gnomes, which have the most knowledge of man, often speaking their like human language. It's from the family that the gnomes' kings are chosen.
Okay, there's a royal family of gnomes now?
Yeah, I guess I forgot to look that one up.
Wait a second. So they have a government and it's a monarchy?
I guess so.
Do they have a parliamentary and like a judiciary system?
I don't
Is there
know.
gnome Katrina, is there
Yes.
gnome jail?
It probably is,
Is there
honestly.
gnome Alcatraz?
It's just like a floating rock in the middle of a lava pool underground. Just go to the
So there's a gnome king and a
Yes.
house gnome. Okay.
So according to local folklore, the leader of the legendary gnomes is the Gnome King, or Kire.
A curate?
Yep. Is said to have lived in the Champagne region of the province of North Brabant in the Netherlands.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to read more?
Yeah. Let's keep
Okay.
getting into this. I didn't know they
Okay.
had a monarchy system. I'm
So
curious.
these gnomes had their base in the village of Hooligan,
Mhm.
or
It
Hooglegoon.
sounds like hooligan,
It's pretty close. It's
okay,
Hoogleloon.
which is how I would describe all of these gnomes. They're hooligans.
Hooligoon. Yep.
Hooligoon. Yeah.
Hooligoon. I think that's how you say it. The gnomes often made journeys in the neighboring lands. According to the tradition, and Gnome King Kire lived in the Kerkrakers of Kauderberg. I
Come again?
apologize. It's so Kerkakkers.
Okay. 'Cause
Kerkrakers.
it sounds like to me this gnome king lives in the town of Hooligan in Ritz Crackers.
It just lives underground in a mountain of Ritz crackers.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Just like the Keebler elf just down the street.
Yep. It all makes sense now. This is the stuff they didn't want you to know in high school.
Oh, could you imagine if we learned this stuff in high school?
Like what class? Like what would it be?
Like
US
mythology?
government?
Honestly, though, if they had like a mythology class, I probably would have taken
Oh, I
it.
would have taken it too. I love that
Like
stuff.
like Norse mythology or something. Like
Love
that'd be
it.
fun. I would love that.
Egyptian mythology is
Ooh,
fun.
yeah. We kind of learned about that a little bit in high school.
I
Egyptian
did
mythology.
just like in history class, yeah, like world
Yeah.
history.
Yeah, just like a brief overview of it, yeah. So we also have farm gnomes that resemble their house brethren, but are more conservative in manner and clothing style. I believe those are the ones that help like out in the farm and like will braid horses'
Well, they're
hair and
called
stuff.
farm gnomes, Katrina, so I hope they
Yes.
help with the farm.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had to.
So Siberian gnomes have been is the last one I have. They have been more than interbred with other gnomes and associate freely with trolls. They are larger and other types than the other types and have infinitely more nasty nature. It is best never to evoke the ire of such gnomes, or they will delight in revenge. So don't
Don't
go
mess
close
with
to the Siberian ones.
the inbred Siberian gnomes. Okay.
So the next kind of like subspecies of gnomes I have are called changelings.
No, I know what those are.
Do you? Yeah, they're
Yeah.
kind of creepy. So myths of the changelings are universal, and they can be also found from Lapland.
Mhm.
So if a child is born sick or deformed, they were told to be a changeling.
Yep.
It's said that a gnome had changed their gnome child to look like a human child, and they
Mhm.
swapped for a human child, which then they would take the human
Skinwalkers.
back. Oh, yeah, which then they would take back to their land to be raised by the gnomes. So basically, kidnap a human child and leave their gnome child in his place.
So they do this in for fairies, I think, too.
Oh, do they?
I
Okay,
believe so.
okay.
And then you
So
have
I
to, like,
also
bring them into the forest and put the baby there and, like,
yeah, and be
leave
like,
it.
I want my baby back. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. So this is also like going back to the iron, like the cold iron. I've heard that if you put like iron above your baby's bed, like your its crib, or like underneath it or something, that'll protect it from
The changelings.
the change, like being switched. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've heard like if you put like a horseshoe or something by it, then it'll protect it from it. So
Mhm.
yay.
Yay! More things to be worried about if you're a parent.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So now we're gonna get into some actually proven real life gnomes.
Real. Legit.
Yeah, like legit, like this actually happened. We have proof. Um,
Cool. Buckle up,
yep.
buttercup.
So we're kind of going back to like the garden gnome. Like this is kind of like where the start of the garden gnome kind of came from.
Okay, and the garden gnome was the ones that do, like, the melancholy, like, tales, right?
Details, yes, that and like the statues we have today.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. So this is kind of interesting. So garden hermits, also known as ornamental hermits, were people who were hired by rich landowners to live in their estate, where they purposely built a hermitage with follies, grottos, or rockeries, along with certain items placed nearby, such as like a Bible, classical book, an hourglass, and like sometimes like a skull. That was like their symbols of like having a garden hermit, or other such items to complete its overall look. So Francis of Paula,
Mhm.
I believe it's his name, was one of the first of these human gnomes who lived
Oh,
in caves in
no.
southern Italy during the 15th century.
Oh,
Yep.
no.
Yeah. So they were expected to permanently live on site, shun the public life, and basically live in solitude. These hermits were encouraged to dress like druids too.
No!
Yeah. Some would go as far as not bathing and or trimming their hair and nails. Yep. In return, they were given a stipend, fed, and cared for.
Mhm.
They were expected to give advice or counsel or offer entertainment to guests in the form of poetry or the serving of wine. This practice of hiring a real-life garden hermit was mostly found in England, but had also been seen in Scotland and Ireland.
Oh my gosh. Jeff Bezos is
Yeah.
gonna do this next, I swear.
Japanese-
Oh, yeah, he's so rich he doesn't know
yeah,
what to do. I wouldn't be surprised
yeah,
if he already is doing this.
that's kind of sad.
Having
Um,
people live on your in your garden and
I
dress
know,
up
just
as, like,
like
a wizard and be like, "Hey there."
yeah. So I did read one account of one of these paid gnomes. He apparently was paid like $77,000, which is insane money at that time. But it's over like 7 years, so $11,000 a year.
Okay.
So he's like,
In what? In today's money or
I think it was back then money. Maybe
and
it was
that's
today's
during,
money.
like, the what period is
It's kind of between like the 15th and the 18th century, I think.
okay.
But I think maybe it was today's money. But apparently after like only 4 days, because they couldn't talk to people really, like they were supposed to like live in a hermit
They're supposed to
situation.
just be, like, a kitschy, like, zoo animal, basically, like a exotic thing.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So apparently
Mhm.
after only 4 days of working there, he was seen at the bar and basically fired because he had a social life. I'm like, oh
Did he take
no.
his costume off at least?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Or he'd
I
go to
couldn't
the
tell you.
bar oh my gosh.
So there's accounts that say that So either if they could not afford to have like a live-in gnome, or they didn't want to deal with a real-life garden hermit,
Oh my god.
some estate owners would opt to set up the hermitage as if a resident had just left or just was out and about. So basically, they staged it and
Mhm.
like put the accessories like the hourglass, a book, glasses, all this stuff like out just to like look like
Like
they're
he
supposed to be
had
living
just
there.
like he was living there and just had like gone out
Yeah.
for whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. So by the end of the 18th century, the practice of hiring ornamental hermits died down. Nowadays, most people opt for a much cheaper option of buying a ceramic statue. So yeah.
And okay, what's the appeal of having
So I think there's a couple different reasons. One of them I think was just kind of like a mythological, like, ooh, fairy garden kind of thing, right? Where you like
okay.
have this magical grotto where this guy supposedly lives, you know. Kind of like just like a fun thing, a kitschy thing.
Uh-huh.
Another thing that I heard too was like they're supposed to bring you good luck. So that's why a lot of people nowadays use them, or like that's how like the statues started becoming popular, is because people use them as
The
good
real
luck
statues.
charms.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was yeah.
The whole real life hermit thing,
Hmm.
sort of like the real person dressing up as like a druid and like dancing
Yeah.
around in your garden,
Yeah.
like smoking a pipe. It
Hmm.
reminded me of something that just sort of like recently was in the news about the New Zealand wizard that they fired or let go.
What?
So New Zealand, the country of New Zealand, they
Hmm.
had their own wizard in their government, like an official wizard. And as far as I know, he sort of did like fake like rain spells and stuff like that. And he was paid a really good amount of money to dress up like a wizard and do these things. And they let him go because of budget cuts, I believe.
That is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. But yeah,
Mhm,
it
but
sounds a
look
lot
him
like
up.
this.
Look him up. He looks like Gandalf the Grey or something, like a Kmart version of Gandalf the Grey.
I have never heard of this. That's
Mhm,
interesting.
mhm.
Oh my.
But
Okay.
still, I'm like, "What's the appeal, people? I don't get it. Somebody tell me, what's the appeal?"
Has this been like a thing for like years, or was it just like
I think
recently that
years.
for years? Oh wow. I suppose it could have been like a heritage thing, but
Maybe it was that.
that's odd.
It's
To us
odd.
it's odd.
I just Katrina, just think now of how many crazy things we've covered that these rich, like, Victorian era wealthy people have like, weird stuff that they have done.
Yeah. Yep.
In the history of the pineapple, they were spending an exorbitant amount of money to
Yep.
heat these specialized greenhouses to grow these pineapples in a climate that pineapples should never be grown in, just so
Yeah.
they could like put it at the head of a table to show it off at
Yep.
parties.
Yep.
And then
They
now they like have people dressing up, like Mickey Mouse dancing in their lawn, their front lawn.
I
It's
mean,
so weird.
it's kind of like the gesture thing though too, right? Like where kings and queens would have jesters come in and like perform. It's kind of like that too, right? Like they'd pay a person just to
Did they
dance.
pay anybody, like, when they were a jester, or was it just like, "We won't kill you"?
I let me Google that. I actually don't know.
I don't know either. Cause yeah, they'd have a court jester or, like, the fool. Those are the only 2 terms that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
In cartoons and movies, we see them juggling and doing bad jokes and
Yep. Now they're on playing cards.
yep, no, they're on playing cards, and you don't want them.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like they did pay them because it says that they had what they called licensed fools.
A licensed fool.
It sounds like they did.
Well, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it was a penny, but, a week, nothing scraps, but
Yeah, it probably wasn't that much, but oh, here's the account. So in Scotland, Mary Queen of Scots had a jester called Nicola. Her son, King James I believe, what's VI? Is that 6?
yeah, 6.
Okay. So King James VI of Scotland employed a jester called Archibald Armstrong.
Mhm.
During his lifetime, Armstrong was given great honors at court. He was eventually thrown out of the king's employment when he overreached and insulted too many of the influential people. Even after his disgrace, books telling of his jests were sold in London streets. So,
Oh.
yeah, so he got paid, but... so apparently one of his jests was to be presented hidden in a giant pie from which he would jump out of it.
Oh. Ew. Is
So it's
that
like the
the
cake
origin
thing.
of, like, the strippers and the cake?
I think so.
Ah,
Yeah.
lord.
It's a jester named Archibald Armstrong.
Great. Back to gnomes.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to go to some of the history of the ceramic gnomes.
The lawn
Um,
gnomes.
lawn gnomes, yeah. So it is believed that the very first contemporary-looking garden gnome, the iconic red hat, was made in Germany by the sculptor Philipp Gabriel in the 1800s. These gnomes were made out of clay. The gnomes first adorned gardens and yards in England in the 1840s. From there, their popularity began to take off. Soon, the fashion of having the gnomes spread across Europe. From England to Poland, and Gabriel contracted his entire manufacturing around producing garden gnomes. So he had a huge business of making these things.
Cool.
Yeah. So the first garden gnomes that were mass produced also came from Germany in the 1870s. The two big names of the gnome manufacturing were Philipp Gabriel and August Hessner, with Hessner becoming known around the world for his gnomes. So he was kind of like the worldly known one, and Gabriel, I think, was more like kind of Europe. So, unfortunately, the World Wars wiped out most of the garden gnome production in Germany, and beginning in the 1960s, plastic gnomes we know today came on the scene. These gnomes were campy and cartoonish, and many people didn't like them.
I don't like the campy cartoonish.
Yeah, that's the ones I don't like. Yeah. So then in the 19th century, Sir Charles Isham brought several of Gabriel's gnomes to England, introducing them to the new market. He is credited with beginning the tradition of garden gnomes in the United Kingdom, where they were nicknamed Lampy. I don't know why.
Don't know why.
One replica is still preserved and displayed in Lamport Hall. Maybe that's why. Lamport Hall.
But it's just displayed there.
Yeah. No. The Isham family residence, and so in their residence in Northamptonshire. So yeah, and then eventually they somehow made their way to the US, and yeah. So now we have them. Literally, you can find garden gnomes probably in like any home and garden store. But I think now they're mostly made of, I think they said like clay and resin, so they're not just like the original clay. I've also seen them like made of wood. Yeah, lots of different materials.
I do think that the pink flamingo lawn ornament, I think
Yeah.
those are more popular now than
The garden gnomes?
Yep.
I think it depends on like the generation, because I know there's some people that are still obsessed with gnomes.
Mhm.
And then when were pink flamingos? Was that the 70s?
I don't know. I
Okay.
just know the fact that there are more of those plastic pink
Yeah.
flamingos than real flamingos.
Was
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me. Yeah. Those are crazy. I think they're kind of fun though. A little bit. There was a thing going around our town a couple of years ago. I think it was called, what was it, like flamingo? You've been flamingoed, or basically
You've
like it was like a
been
donation thing.
flamingoed.
Yeah, it was like someone would show up to your yard and like put tons, like 20 pink flamingos in your yard, along with a sign like, "You've been flamingoed. In order to remove them, you must donate to this place." So it was like a donation thing.
I'd send the Tompi after them. That's what I'd do.
You said the what?
I'd send the
The topic.
Tompi after them. Like, go.
They didn't give you your porridge.
They
Go
didn't
get
give you
them.
your porridge. Go get them.
Yeah.
Well, that was really cool, Katrina. I liked it a lot.
Hey, hey.
I'm definitely probably gonna research the gnome monarchy some more after this because that is just very intriguing to me. Are
Yeah.
there any like sources or anything that our listeners can
Oh yeah.
check out if they want to learn more about gnomes?
Yeah, so like some of the ones I read through most and used for this podcast were fairychamber.com, historyhustle.com, curioushistorian.com, mythology.net, and mythosfandom.com. So basically I just like went like googled like history of gnomes and mythology, or it's like gnome history, or like real life gnomes, and then there's a lot of articles, a lot of different resources you can find that way. So
Cool.
yeah. It's kind of interesting too, because like basically every country has their own, or like every little region has their own
Version
little
of a
spin on
gnome.
something. Yeah, and it's like it's all basically the same, like a short human looking creature with a pointy hat, long beard. They did say, I have read too, that like the women gnomes, usually you don't see them, but if you do, they have really long hair and sometimes have beards.
No, sometimes they have beards. Okay.
Sometimes.
All right. What's the
And I have heard too, like stories of like in different like mystery podcasts and stuff, like cryptozoology podcasts I listen to. Like there's stories of people like actually encountering gnomes in America. And it's kind of creepy.
Really?
Yeah, like there's like one, I believe this kid was like walking, or like got home late at night, so it was dark, and he saw this thing, his cat was outside like batting, like I don't know if you guys have seen like a cat like bat at a mouse or whatever. He was doing that to something, and it looked like a little person, and so the little thing turned and saw the kid, and he ran away like super fast. These things are
And it
supposed to
was
be
a
super
human?
fast too.
Oh,
It
they're
was like
really fast. Okay.
Yeah, so so it like sprinted like down the driveway and kind of stopped and looked at the kid and ran away again like into the forest. But yeah, it was like a little person. So so I don't know. I guess I'm not saying I don't know. I don't know if I completely believe that they're real, but I'm not saying they don't because I don't know. It kind of freaks me out to think that there's little people running around underneath all of us.
Oh, in the like upside down world, like Stranger Things.
Yep. So yeah, so I hope you guys learned a little bit and enjoyed this walk down history lane here.
Walk down
You
history
guys
lane.
it's kind of fun because I knew like gnomes were like a big part of like or like elves and stuff were a big part of like Scandinavian culture.
Wait,
But
are gnomes and elves like cousins?
so I think like gnomes, elves, fairies, dwarves, all those things are kind of in the same realm.
In the
I
same.
don't
Okay.
know if it's like their kind of version, like dwarves and elves are like little people or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're like in the same kind of realm.
The same tree, maybe.
Yeah,
A
I think
family
so.
tree. Okay.
That's what I understood. So
Okay.
yeah.
I just have one little tidbit thing that I saw that was kind of interesting.
Okay, yeah.
So I was scrolling through Reddit like I always do,
Yeah.
and I came across like old cough syrup.
Okay.
Really, really old, like early 1900s old cough
Oh
syrup, like a
no.
picture of it. And on this label on the front, it had the ingredients of what was in there, and I thought it was really
Did it have
funny.
like arsenic in it or something?
Yeah, a lot of horrible things
Did
are in
it?
there. Yeah, so
Oh
it's
no.
called I have the picture. I took a screenshot of it. So it's called One
Okay.
Night Cough Syrup. It's trademarked. I don't know if it is
Okay.
anymore. I think the
Probably
trademark is
not. No.
no. So this is what's in it. Alcohol, which
Mhm.
is,
That's pretty normal.
cannabis, indica cannabis,
See,
weed.
that used to be a huge like medicine thing and all of a sudden it became taboo.
Yeah, we could do a episode about that because
That's true. It's
it's
kind of interesting, yeah.
what else? Chloroform. Chloroform is in it. Is in
No.
cough syrup. And then
Mm.
morphia sulfate. So is that like
Is that morphium?
I
Is
think it
that what?
might be morphium. I'm not a doctor,
Okay.
I don't know.
I have to look it up.
But I thought that was really funny. Chloroform, weed,
Oh
alcohol.
man. It's just like mellows you out and knocks you out.
Yeah.
And go to sleep.
Yeah, we got rid of your cough all right because
Oh
you're
man.
unconscious.
Good night.
Good night.
It's like Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's always fascinating to me to like learn that's what's like to hear about like what used to be in all these medicines,
Well,
It's
didn't
like,
it gain popularity because of the prohibition, and they needed to find like a new
oh, did it?
drink?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I'm just speculating.
I
I
mean,
think maybe I've heard something like along the lines of that, but
it could have been. I mean, I know that soda used to be with like medicine. Like they used to go to like the soda shop and just get it as a medicine. So just like soda for
Like Pepsi
yeah.
Cola's Pepsin, like that sort of in the same. Yep.
So that was their medicine. That's
But
kind of interesting.
also, I mean, and I think it's in like Peru and other countries in South America, like
Mhm.
eating like a whatever leaf, like chewing on it
Oh, what is that? Yeah.
is like part of their tradition.
Yeah, it makes you like hallucinate or something, right?
No, no, no,
Oh, is
no.
it not? Oh.
It's just it's part of it's the leaf that is used to make cocaine.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just like you just chew on it. It's just like a little bit of like boost, you know.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
Have to look into that. That'd be interesting to talk about.
Mhm.
You have to send me that picture then of the bottle so I can put it on
Oh yeah,
Instagram.
I'll send it to you. Were you thinking about ayahuasca with the
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know what I was thinking
I think
about.
you're thinking of ayahuasca. That's also
Okay.
very like same region, different
Oh,
thing.
is it? Okay.
Same
Maybe I
region,
was,
different
yeah.
thing.
Okay.
But I'll send
So
this
I've
to you.
like watched so many History Channel things
They
I
all
don't
start blending together,
a
honestly,
little
right?
bit, yeah, a little bit, yeah.
You
Yep.
try to learn and then stuff blends together, and that's just how it is.
All right, guys. If you want to check out our companion images from this episode, please check us out on Instagram at Foolish Wanderers Podcast. And if you have any suggestions or ideas for future episodes, please send us an email at fwplisteners@gmail.com.
And as always, new episodes out every single Wednesday from wherever you get your podcast. Literally everywhere.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Even YouTube. We have
Yep.
a YouTube channel.
And
So go
if you
subscribe to that, please.
Yep, so like, subscribe if you want to give us 5 stars, positive comment, share with your friends, family, neighbors, your fish, your hermit crab. I don't know.
Hermit crabs are cute. I like them.
You like them? I've never had
Yeah.
one.
I never have one either. They're cute though.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, guys. See you guys next time. Yeah, I always like hermit crabs. They had them at like the town, like the vacation town next to us.
The
But
vacation town next to
yeah, but we never like. I was always like kind of hesitant to get them because it's like I don't know how to take care of them. You have to I think they have like little shrimp that they eat. Like you have to have like a specific cage for them, so they're kind of difficult to take care of actually.
Too much work.
Have you seen there's like a TikTok going around. It's like this guy, he was scuba diving and then he goes next to this crab and this crab takes off. So his I don't know if it was his legs or what, but they're spinning like helicopters. And he was just flying through the water like a
What?
helicopter. It looked like a little drone. I
I'll
have
have
to
to
send
look
it to
that
you.
up. Yeah, send that to me.
It's kind of funny because like then you put like sound effects over it where it sounded like a helicopter was chasing. It was pretty great.